awake during this long day. So this contribution is about 4 projects actually. So Cortex, that's the project I'm leading, the coordinator for this project. And also 2 other projects led by Victor Sanchez, who is sitting there in the room from KIT. That's the HPMC and MagSafe projects. And finally, the NeuroSafe project led by Bruno Chanaron, who is not here today at CEA, Saclay. Well, first of all, this presentation is about numerical simulations used for nuclear safety. And you all know that predictive simulations are really the backbone of nuclear safety. We try to see whether the behavior of the plant fulfills some criteria to be sure that we're always on the safe side. And most of the tools were developed actually where the computing resources were rather limited. Most of the tools that we use today in the industry were actually developed in the 70s, 80s, where computing power was very limited. And therefore, there is a shift towards higher fidelity methods today, trying to capitalize on the progress made in computing, both on the hardware side, but also on the software side. And because we have better modeling tools, it means also that we are gaining in safety margins. The safety margins are reduced, and therefore the reactor are operating closer to the safety limits. And therefore, it is also important to have a good monitoring of the status of the reactors, because the reactors are operating closer to their safety limits. And in addition, it was mentioned several times during the morning presentations, we have an aging fleet, especially in Europe and the US. And we know that we are going to have, and we have already, more frequent operational problems in the plants. So I will give a brief overview of these 4 projects that I mentioned and try only to focus on what is common to these 4 projects. That means advanced numerical simulation and modeling for reactor safety. So I will first give a brief overview of the project, and then I will give a brief overview of the main objectives and main achievements of these 4 projects. So Cortex. Cortex stands for Core Monitoring Techniques and Experimental Validation and Demonstration. And the idea of Cortex is actually very simple. It is to try to detect possible anomalies in a reactor during operation. And if you have an anomaly, try to characterize this anomaly and possibly also try to find out where inside the system you have this anomaly. And what is innovative with Cortex is that we use neutron noise for that. So neutron noise, that's fluctuation of the neutron flux around the mean value, and you always have noise. Noise comes from the fact that you have a highly turbulent flow in the reactor core, that you might have vibrations. And therefore, if you try to detect possible variation of the neutron noise from its expected pattern, you might try to detect anomalies. The problem is slightly complicated because if we had detectors everywhere inside the system, at every single location, in every single fuel assemblies, we could easily invert, try to find where you have the problem inside the system. But unfortunately, Western type light water reactors are poorly instrumented in inside the reactor. So therefore, the idea of Cortex is to use machine learning for making this identification and unfolding. What we try to do is to make a lot of simulations based on different assumptions for possible anomalies, for possible scenarios of anomalies, feed that to machine learning, and then machine learning will compare the simulations to the measurements and tell you that you have this anomaly inside the system at this location inside the system. Then for the projects led by Victor Sanchez, there are actually 2 projects, HPMC, High Performance Monte Carlo Methods for Core Analysis. That was a project running in the previous framework program. And then MagSafe, which is a current project, High Performance Monte Carlo Methods for Safety Analysis. And the aim is to develop high-fidelity multi-physics simulation tools based on Monte Carlo techniques for neutron transport. In the first project, HPMC, that was actually a proof of principle for static calculation that indeed you can use Monte Carlo for industrial applications for steady state situations. And now the idea is to move to some applications which are slightly beyond what was done in the previous project, namely time-dependent simulations, coupling at the fine scales of the thermal hydraulics, coupling also to thermomechanics. Then for the NeuroSafe project led by Bruno Chanaron. So NeuroSafe stands for Nuclear Reactor Safety Simulation Platform. And the aim was to develop a European reference tool for higher fidelity simulation of light water reactor cores for both design and safety assessment. So here you have an illustration of what it means. It means coupling different tools, tools modeling the neutronics, tool modeling the thermohydraulics at the core level, tool modeling the thermohydraulics at the plant level, and also tools modeling the thermomechanics at the pin level. There was also an emphasis on trying to release industry-like applications and also to have a quantification of the uncertainties during all the simulation steps. So now regarding the objectives and the main achievements, if we start with the different projects, if we think about the different projects and the common theme, which is modeling, you have to have in mind that the strategy that the industry is using today, that's mostly what we call divide and conquer. You have different tools, modeling different physics, and also modeling different scales. And you try to couple all the tools together. So if you know that the problem is, for instance, driven by the reactor physics, by the neutronics, what you are going to have is a very detailed modeling for reactor physics processes. And what is used today by the industry is that to have a two-step procedure. You try to generate what we call macroscopic cross-section in advance. So you use the exact form of the transport equation on the small size, on the small part of the system, having proper boundary conditions to create data, macroscopic cross-section data, which are later on fed to a core simulator where you solve a simpler form of the transport equation. And when the problem is driven by the reactor physics, you have typically a simpler modeling of the thermohydraulics. So you see that you have already a two-scale procedure, mesoscopic model for creating cross-sections, and thereafter a macroscopic model for the core modeling. If, on the other hand, the phenomenon driving the reactor behavior are related to thermohydraulics, we try to focus instead on thermohydraulic modeling. And here you have more or less the same kind of approaches. You have fine scales phenomena which are not modeled in this case. They are given by correlations. Then they are fed thereafter into a coarse mesh simulator solving the Navier-Stokes equation and the energy conservation equations. And if need be, you can couple that to a simpler form of the neutron transport. So that was mostly what has been used by the industry for the calculation in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Now, in the year 2000, there was a need to try to combine the best approaches in both the reactor physics side and the thermohydraulic side. That means getting rid of these two extra blocks and coupling directly the macroscopic models. And that's what the industry is using and what is referred to as best estimate approaches. And now there is also an incentive to go beyond that, to try to have a coupling at the finest possible scales. So you don't couple any longer the macroscopic step, but you couple the simulations at the mesoscopic scales. And here you have some result of simulation that we perform at Chalmers, not part of this project I'm going to talk about, showing the coupling at the finer scales between neutronics and thermohydraulics to get a detailed answer of the physics. So having that in mind, let's go back to the four projects. So Cortex first. And well, we rely a lot on simulation in Cortex. So there is a big work package on trying to estimate the neutron noise. The tools that are neutron transport tools are not made for neutron noise. So the strategy here is to develop new tools to perform the calculation of neutron noise. And we use several complementary approaches. Either we use existing codes and we modify them, or we develop new codes from scratch. The codes can work either in the time domain or in the frequency domain. And you could use either coarse mesh approaches or fine mesh approaches. And if you want, you could use deterministic approaches or Monte Carlo approaches. So here I'm going to show you, that's an animation showing some result of simulation that we did on neutron noise. The simulation were performed on the coarse mesh in the frequency domain, but typically when I show results in the frequency domain, I lose 80% of the audience. So here I show the results in the time domain after an inverse Fourier transform. So here you have the core having a typical cylindrical shape, and we introduce a perturbation at the inlet of one channel. So here you see the perturbation traveling along the flow. And here you have the response in this channel of the neutron flux and the radial distribution of the reactor response at mid-elevation. So that these tools that we use to produce noise signatures which are going to be used in machine learning algorithms. I would like to mention there are two posters right outside of this meeting room devoted to neutron noise simulation, one in the frequency domain and one in the time domain. So one from Chalmers and one from Valencia. Then, since we develop new tools, there is a need to validate these tools against experiments. And we use two facilities for that. The first facility is the Crocus reactor at EPFL in Switzerland, in Lausanne. And there is an animation here, so you need to be very attentive to see that you have actually 18 rods here which are moving. So we actually control the movement of 18 rods inside this reactor. So we have a precise measure of the perturbation applied to the system, and we also a precise measure of the effect of this perturbation onto neutron flux inside the system. And the other reactor that we are using, that the EKR2 reactor in Germany. Here we cannot see much because there is a containment around the reactor, so there is not much to show you as an excitement for this afternoon. And there is also a poster by EPFL where they show actually some fiber-based detectors, which are not developed as part of Cortex, but we are going to use these detectors later on in Cortex, so we can also have a look at this poster in the corridor later on. And then the final step relevant for nuclear reactor simulation, that's the machine learning step, which is try to invert the reactor transfer function. And there are different objectives here. The first one is to detect abnormal fluctuations, if there is any. Then to actually invert the reactor transfer function, meaning trying to detect which anomaly you have inside the system, and if relevant, also detect where exactly inside the system you have the anomaly. We need to be sure that the method that we derive can handle very scarce in-core instrumentation, and also they can handle intermittencies. So here you see some very preliminary results that we did with machine learning. So instead of trying to derive very advanced algorithms at the first step of the project, we use what was already existing, which was to use machine learning on image processing. So actually what we did was to create noise signatures for a three-dimensional reactor, and then we created responses on each of the planes of the system, and then created 2D images of these axial responses put together. And we could detect correctly the different anomalies and locate correctly these anomalies. There is also a poster outside of this room on the latest development that we did in machine learning from University of Lincoln, where we see that they use three-dimensional convolutional networks, and we're also able to correctly identify and locate the anomalies. For the Monte Carlo related projects, so the first objective was to have an optimal Monte Carlo thermohydraulic coupling. In the HPMC project, the coupling was either internal or external. And in the MaxSafe project, they use this eCoco-based coupling and internal master-safe coupling using Serpent and the message passing interface. Also some advanced subchannel flow preprocessor for the thermohydraulics at the pin level, some coupling library, and also some inbuilt interpolation. And they also use the Salome platform, which is the result of the last project I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes, to couple all these tools together. And the MaxSafe project has the ability to model both rectangular-based fuel assemblies as well as hexagonal-based fuel assemblies, thanks to the Monte Carlo method, which is highly flexible for modeling 18 type of geometry. Then the second main objective of MaxSafe was to have a coupling between various fields of physics, neutronics, thermohydraulics, and thermomechanics, but of course still using Monte Carlo for the neutronics. And they use, in the present example that I'm going to show you, some coupling based on Serpent for the Monte Carlo case, subchannel flow for the thermohydraulics, and Trans-Uranus for the thermomechanics. So here Serpent is the master, and then you have some coupling interfaces so that you have subchannel flow as a slave and also transunit of the slave, providing the necessary information for providing the coupled solution to the problem. And here are some results of simulation based on this coupled scheme. So first some axial cut of the power inside the system, which was modeled. That was the fuel assembly, 17 by 17 pressurized water reactor type. And then some radial cut of the power, and then the coolant temperature between the fuel pins. And then finally, the main objective of MaxSafe was to focus on dynamic Monte Carlo simulations. So try to account for the effect of delay neutrons, mostly how to account for the effect of delay neutrons in transient calculation. So actually they deliver new versions of Serpent, Tripoli, and MCNP, which are actually able to handle the effect of delay neutrons. And here first there was a demonstration of principle using a mini core, and the control was extracted from the system. It's not very obvious to see on this figure, but here you have the time evolution of the reactor power, if I'm not mistaken, and the temperature also inside the system due to the extraction of the control rod. And then also they did some testing after making this successful demonstration of the coupling methodology and also this dynamic version of the codes. In the present case, that was, again, a control being extracted, and the response of the system was mostly point kinetics. So they actually compared the response of the system to point kinetics. And you could also see that depending on how you model the delay neutrons, the assumption that you use for that, you can also get different results. Finally, for the last project, NeuroSafe. So here the objective was really to enhance the simulation capabilities for multiphysics. So the idea was to, first of all, develop a software platform where you could couple all the tools. You could start with your CAD design and create the proper meshing for different tools. Then you have a material database and then all the tools that are plugged in into the Salome platform, and you can compute the response of the system using these different tools. Then there was also some emphasis on uncertainty quantification. Then a big part of NeuroSafe was devoted also to advanced two-phase flow simulations using CFD software, so not using macroscopic models as we used to do for nuclear simulation, but using CFD instead. And also try to deliver safety-relevant industry-like applications for loss of coolant accidents, pressurized thermal shock, main streamline breaks, boron dilution accidents, and some boiling water reactor anticipated transient without scram at WOS. And finally, there was a big part of the project devoted to the validation of the modeling capabilities. Again, experiments, a lot of experiments were analyzed and modeled in the NeuroSafe project. So concerning the development of multi-scale and multi-physics simulation capabilities for safety analysis, there were different target situations. So first of all, different types of coupling, the system thermohydraulic coupled to the core thermohydraulic coupled to neutronics, or CFD coupled to the core thermohydraulics, or fuel thermomechanics coupled to the core thermohydraulics, depending on type of behavior or type of transient that you analyze. Then main streamline breaks, both for pressurized water reactors and VVR reactors, both at the nodal level and the pin-by-pin level. Then regarding ATWOS for boiling water reactors, they simulated this OECD NEA benchmark of the Oskarshamn 2 1999 event in Sweden. They also analyzed the OECD NEA pitch bottom boiling water reactor transient. And in terms of loss of coolant accidents, they looked at the coupling of the codes, CFD and thermomechanics codes for the simulation of situation with balloon fuel rods. And in terms of pressurized thermal shocks, they look at the high fidelity prediction of wall temperature using CFD models. And regarding boiling water reactor and thermohydraulic specific applications, they look at the steam injection in the pressure suppression pool. And here you have some results of simulations for main streamline break accident. You know that in the main streamline break you have an overcooling of the system, which brings some reactivity, and the challenge is to determine the increase of reactivity and also the increase of temperature during this transient. So here I have an idea about the axial distribution of the power during this transient. And regarding this focus on two-phase flow, they wanted to have a look at some new ways of modeling two-phase flow, not running on macroscopic models, but running on mesoscopic and even microscopic models. So they, for instance, couple interface tracking models with phase average models, so they can actually model all types of flow regimes. They also looked at DNS, direct numerical simulations, and LES, large eddy simulations, for both pool and convective boiling, as well as for bubbly flow. And then in terms of validation, I will not go through all these validation exercises, but you see that they went through a lot of validation experiments with the Salome platform, demonstrating the viability of the platform and the tools. Okay, in conclusions, if you think about the main achievements of the projects, so first of all, if we look at NeuroSafe, there were some major advancements made in terms of simulation capabilities for two-phase flows, so not relying on macroscopic model, but on using something which is much more advanced. Then if we look at the Monte Carlo-based project, we see that now we have really mature Monte Carlo methods, which can be used both for depletion and dynamic calculation, and that can be also coupled to other fields of physics. And we can say that we really now have truly multi-physics and multi-scale simulation capabilities for industrial applications. Then for the Cortex project, we see also that we extended the simulation capabilities not only to transient, but also to the modeling of fluctuation of the neutron noise. And we also successfully demonstrated the viability of using machine learning for backtracking the possible type of anomaly present inside the system and also the actual location of the anomaly inside the system. If we think beyond these 4 projects, what are the current trends? Well, here I mostly talked about neutronics coupled to thermohydraulics at the core of the system level, and then coupled to the fuel thermomechanics. You could think about including more and more physics. There are a lot of efforts, mostly in the US, trying to involve all possible fields of physics for modeling nuclear reactor systems. Then we are going to use more and more hybrid methods. If you think about neutron transport, we could use a combination between deterministic transport and Monte Carlo methods. Already in the area of thermohydraulics, we are trying to use now a combination between macroscopic models, CFD models, and even complemented by DNS and LES models. And also, I'm pretty convinced that machine learning is going to be used also for predictive modeling. We have access to a large database of measurements which were performed in the reactor since they started in the 70s. And we could use this database to try to predict the behavior of the system instead of using simulation tools for this purpose. Okay, and that concludes this presentation. We'll be glad to entertain the question you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these really interesting presentations. Thank you. I would like to ask you if I have questions or comments. Yes, please.
Thank you, Christopher, for a very interesting summarizing presentation. I don't have a question, I have a comment that to your summary, that there's an important point that if we want to improve economics of our power plants, that's important to have better and better simulation tools to decrease the uncertainties and big safety margins to a reasonable level. So it's very important, I think, to have such projects.
If I may add a comment on that, I mean, most of the tools that we are using today were specifically developed for light water reactor systems, having a given shape of the fuel assemblies, given size. But when we are looking at more exotic systems, small modular reactors, Gen 4 systems, and the maturity of the tools is not the same at the same level as for light water reactors. So there is a need to have these high fidelity tools also for non-standard systems, I would say.
Hi, Kaisa Simula from the European Commission Joint Research Center. I would like to ask you about this accessibility or who can use this platform or tools, because as you said, the aim is to have some European reference tool or platform. So if somebody who wasn't involved in the project, do they have access to this?
Okay, I can answer for Cortex at least. Some of the tools are open access and open source tools. For instance, CoreSim, which is a tool that we develop at Chalmers, is free. So if you ask, you get the tool without any problem. And I know that Valencia also is developing a tool. The poster that they present is also an open source tool. Then for the Monte Carlo projects, maybe Victor can comment on that.
HPMC, we have so-called user group. If you join the user group by signing some agreement, then you will get access to, depending on the code owners, of the executables. In case of suction flow, for example, you can get the source code. But for Tripoli, you have to ask CA for Serpent VTT. But Serpent is widely used, and you can get easily it if you sign. And to have access to the test problems we are solving within MagSafe, you have to sign this so-called user group agreement. That's it. And you are welcome. Everybody is welcome to join it. So we have still 18 months to work till end of August next year. So now the best, we are almost finished with the developmental stage, and we are moving to the applications, validations, and improvements of the tools. And till now, we have very promising results.
And for NeuroSafe, the Salome platform is also open source, so it's freely available. Then what you plug as simulation tools into Salome, that's another story. Depends on which organization has developed the code. Victor was referring to, for instance, Tripoli. Then you need to ask either CA to get access to Tripoli or to get Tripoli from the NEA database.
So MagSafe is based on the so-called NeuroSim. It is a European, the only European simulation platform developed since 12 years by 3 projects: NeuroSim, NeuroISP, NeuroSafe, and MagSafe built on it. There's a lot of accumulated experience doing code coupling, using an innovative approach. And so even the amount of money devoted to it is not so big like in America, but the ICOC methodology is very powerful and allows us to couple different solvers in an easy manner, in a standardized manner. And this was invented during this NeuroSafe project. So we are using it also for multi-scale coupling outside at KIT to couple system codes with CFD codes or system codes with subchannel codes. So, and it's an open source platform. So it's based on Salome software, which is open source.
Thank you very much. You still want to do?
You said basically that you have these fantastic codes and you have a user group, and this user group is using it really, or it's just a name of user group? I mean, are you implementing the codes in real life, or it is just, I mean, playing with, or research for research, or something that is, I just really want to know if they are used for some reason.
There's a LUT University, La Pelandra University, Energy. They have, for example, they'd like to apply it for the licensing of the material testing reactor, PALAS, which is going to be built in the Netherlands. And the geometry of this plate type fuel assembly, and for this, in this small core, where leakage play a key role. So these Monte Carlo-based tools can be easily applied for not only light water reactor, but also research reactors of different geometry. And also, of course, for Gen 4 reactors, because suction flow and many other thermodynamic codes can handle sodium, lead, and so on.
In terms of user group, I'm not the coordinator of NeuroSafe, but I know that they had a very active user group, and the idea was to also within NeuroSafe to have workshops on help people using the tools, so that they can also use the tools after the project has completed. And I know that organizations are still using the tools developed in NeuroSafe.
Okay, very good. I see that this presentation actually provoked a very interesting discussion. I have just a small question for you, because now comes out my interest for security, and all these tools practically are revealing, modeling the safety of the reactor. My question is, how do you protect for cyber security attack?
A good question. I mean, most of the modeling exercises are done offline. So I assume that the organization can implement measures to have these tools cyber protected. What is more concerning, that's for the core monitoring, where you need to have an online access to signals and also processing of the signals. And of course, if the signals are vulnerable, that's a concern.
The user groups should be protected very well, because you need to know who are the users. I mean, this group should not be open, but should be really protected by any intrusion of somebody who would like to make a threat. Because with these models, you can understand the safety of the reactor, you can understand, we spoke about Pallas, the configuration and so on. So you can have actually somebody who can intend to make later an attack as a security to the reactor itself and to try to threat the security, the safety of the reactors. Okay, just But I know that there is a lot of attention now of cybersecurity in nuclear, because there is more artificial intelligence, there is more machine learning use, there is more of all these modern tools, and even though you are offline, there is always that attack that have been. It's not something that never happened.
And also the sensors. I mean, you are using more and more wireless sensors, which mean that you have also possible additional risk of the signals being
Continue later, maybe when we look at the posters, this kind of discussions. And I would like